Good morning, everyone. How are we today? I am back with our Readers Are Leaders Kids Book Club. So we're continuing on with Break the Mould by Sinead Burke, and I've been getting some great feedback about this. So again, keep sending in your feedback. I love hearing about it. It is an absolutely great book. We're a little bit over halfway, so I'm going to continue this on, and as I put on the F.Y.I Dance Club website on the weekly news, is that I might not be here every Saturday. So during the summertime is like my training, and it's the time that I kind of take for myself to reflect and to prepare for the next season. I'm also going to be doing summer camps. I'm doing summer performance intensives. So my schedule changes a little bit at this time of the year. I'll do my best to pop in on a Saturday morning, but it might be at a different time in the week as well. But always remember, these replays are available here and over on YouTube as well. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, F.Y.I Dance Club, then you'll get a notification of when we drop the next book club. So do read along with me, or just close your eyes, sit back and listen. Let's nourish our brains. So we were talking the last week, 2 weeks ago, about inventing new words and how to change a language. So we're going to pick it up on page 108, Break the Mould by Sinead Burke. Inventing new words. But what about if the words that you're comfortable with don't exist? The amazing thing about language is that it's consistently changing and evolving. Each year, over 1,000 words are added to the dictionary, and some words and meanings have changed over time. Did you know that nice once meant silly, foolish, and simple? I did not know that. Or that naughty used to mean evil rather than just badly behaved. Or that clue was understood to be a ball of wool. Definitely did not know that. Or that fudge meant lies and nonsense, that it was something that you said, not something that you ate. And the other one that I came across was the word bold. So it kind of, in our country, bold means that you've been naughty, but bold can also mean courageous and strong. So that's two completely conflicting words. If you say that you're bold, it might mean that you're being courageous, or that actually also might mean that you're being naughty. So it's, the English language. It's a funny one. Good morning, everyone. I speak a few different languages, English, Irish and French. I love the Irish language, but when I was at school, there was no word for little person in the Irish dictionary. There was a word for dwarf, but I needed a language that would give me confidence and that I would be comfortable with. I thought to myself, how do you change a language? How do you add a word to a dictionary? Do you know how to do that? Well, maybe she'll tell us now. I did some research and learned that Fóras na Gaeilge is the organisation that oversees the development of the Irish language. I got in touch with them and said, "Hi, my name is Sinead Burke. I'm a teacher and a little person. Unfortunately, there is no word in the Irish language that allows me to say this sentence in Gaeilge. How can we add the term little person to the dictionary?" I didn't think that they would reply, but they did, and really quickly too. "Hi Sinead, you're right, it doesn't exist, but this sounds like a great idea. Do you have any suggestions for what the new word could be?" "Sure," I replied. "What about the direct translation of little person, Dinna Beag?" To say Dinna Beag, it sounds like this, Dinna Beag. That's perfect. We'll add it in the dictionary right now, and they did. So Dinna Beag, little person. In just 3 days, I added a new term to the Irish dictionary, and it was made official. I changed the Irish language. Now people had a more sensitive and appropriate term they could officially use. Gosh, that's a result, isn't it? Language and words are malleable, which means they are flexible and can change over time and with other people's input. Are there any words that you think should be invented? Funny words that will bring people joy, kind words that will make people happy, or empowering words that will make people confident? Are there any words that you believe we should remove? Words that make people feel uncomfortable or are a little outdated? When change isn't always positive. Sometimes the way language is used isn't always positive. There are lots of words that sometimes mean the same thing or similar things, and use the wrong one might cause upset. The language that I use to describe myself is often different to the words I hear muttered as I walk past a group of strangers. Or if someone is trying to make fun of me, sometimes they use a word that's really hurtful. They might call me midget. Yikes. When I hear it, I stop. I've become aware of the quickening of my breath and my pulse. I can feel my temperature increase and I start to sweat. I panic. When people use that word, it makes me feel unsafe, uncomfortable, and it is used to remind me that I am different to them. A difference that is not to be celebrated, but one that is supposed to make me feel less of a person. The word midget is an old and out of date term. It first came into circulation almost 200 years ago, but became popular thanks to one man, P.T. Barnum. Now, this is interesting because you might know P.T. Barnum, so if you've seen The Greatest Showman, P.T. Barnum, you recognize the name. He was famous for gathering people who were different and bringing them together in a circus for audiences to observe and spectate. It was a long time ago when the world was less accepting of people who looked like me. There were few jobs and opportunities to go to school, so what PT was offering, I imagine, was very tempting. To introduce the audience to people who looked like me, P.T. Barnum would describe them as midgets. At every show, he would create an awareness of this word, but at the same time, it didn't cause the upset it caused today. Isn't that interesting? The world has changed. Little people are educated and diverse and work in many professions. Just like the average height community, many little people choose to work in areas such as education, healthcare, hospitality, entertainment, manufacturing, and many more. The possibility of what we can achieve and accomplish is almost limitless. Yet still the word midget is used. This must change. We must choose to use language and words that are kind, that reflect our reality, and most importantly, give people permission to feel proud of who they are. But how do we change it? You can. There are lots of words that are no longer appropriate or kind. You might know a few of them. You might have been called them or used them yourself without realizing how hurtful they are. It takes practice to learn new ways of saying old things. You might make a mistake or say an old word accidentally or unintentionally. The important thing is that you try. Over time, choosing to use kind words will become completely natural. You have the power to make a difference, and you can also teach your friends and family new, kinder words. If they make a mistake, you can say, hey, that word isn't cool. We're all in this together. Awkward. This might all sound easy, but sometimes when someone says or does something that isn't cool, it can feel too awkward to say anything. Over time, I've been collecting and creating phrases and sentences that I use when people say something that is no longer acceptable or has never been acceptable. I hope they might help you navigate awkward and uncomfortable situations with confidence and style. Top tips for awkward situations. Situation number 1. If someone is trying to be kind, but they're using words that are outdated and language that I don't identify with, I try to remind them of other words they could use instead. For example, if they have described me as a dwarf and not a little person, I might say something like, I understand that you might not know and that you are trying to be sensitive with the words you use, but I don't describe myself as a dwarf. Some other people do, but I choose to describe myself as a little person. In future, when you are talking about me, could you use little person or even my name, Sinead? The script isn't just for little people, it's for anyone who is different. If you would like others to describe you with a language that makes you feel comfortable, change dwarf, little person and Sinead to the words that fit your experience, your identity and the things that make you different. Okay, situation number 2. If someone is trying to hurt your feelings or they're trying to hurt your friend or your brother or your sister, you might try to help by reminding them of other words that they could use instead. But you could also tell an adult, a parent, a teacher, or someone who can help. When I was a teacher, one of my students once came to me and said, a boy was in the yard at lunchtime and one of the other older boys, for no reason at all, started to call him names. They hit him and they made him very upset. I don't know what to do. I didn't feel safe telling them to stop, but I wanted to do something. I wanted to help. This is a brave thing to do. Telling someone you trust will make you feel better and help you understand that what happened wasn't your fault. But it also means that the parent, teacher or older friend can then talk to the people causing the problem and teach them about the impact of their actions, the ways in which we are all different and the importance of being respectful and kind. Thinking about words and using our voices to tell the world who we are to be and how we feel has never been more important. Even though it's not easy, it takes practice. It's not impossible. Now, page 119, Speak My Language. There are over 6,000 spoken languages in the world, but some languages are not even heard, they're seen. Sign language is made up of facial expressions, hand movements and symbols, used mostly by deaf people. The movements convey more than just a sound, they also express ideas. Just as different countries around the world have different spoken languages, they also have different sign languages. If we look at Irish Sign Language and the British Sign Languages, we can see their differences. The Irish manual sign alphabet uses one hand for finger spelling, I'll show you now, whereas the British manual sign alphabet uses two hands. Take a look at both their alphabets, try signing your name in both Irish Sign Language and British Sign Language. And if you don't know sign language already, why not learn to say, hi, how are you? You can communicate this with someone whose first language is sign language. So I'm going to show this to you. So can you see that? This is a great little tip here. We can learn how to spell our names. And here's the British Sign Language. That's fantastic. Wow. I wonder, do you know any sign language? Drop me a comment there to say, what do you know how to say in sign language? I know I picked up when we say thank you in my classes that I teach as well. Unsung heroes, the people you're not taught about at school. Okay, so we have another one of these case studies that tell us about people that we might not hear about in school, or maybe you do. Okay, so Christine Sun Kim is a deaf artist and activist who believes in the power of art to communicate between those who hear and those who are deaf. Describing the differences between spoken languages and American Sign Language, Christine thinks of music and playing the piano. She suggests that the English language is like playing one note at a time. We use words as building blocks to create sentences, but sign language is like a chord. You press 10 fingers into the keys all at once to create not just one sound, but an idea and a feeling. Christine does not use her literal voice to communicate, but she is not voiceless. She is a powerful advocate who works to include deaf people in culture, art, and the wider world. She has even performed the American national anthem in sign language at the Super Bowl, which is football's biggest event in the US. Her hope being that it would inspire the many deaf children watching the game on the TV at home. Wow, there's a little sketch there as well. That's amazing. Okay, that brings us up to chapter 6, to have a voice. So we're going to pick it up there next week, or I might even dip in during the week, although I am going to go on a bit of an adventure with my son Oliver next week so that we can really catch up with each other, because I've had a busy month and I want to make sure that I'm giving him all the attention he deserves. So on to our junior book, we've got Superworm. Okay, I love this book. It absolutely just rolls off the tongue, and it's so rhythmical, and you know I like to dance, so of course I love rhythmical and rhyming books. And so Superworm is super long, Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, we'll see him squirm, hip hip hooray for Superworm. So let's have a giggle together and hear me trying to get all the rhythmical words right. So rhythmical words and rhyming is really good for actually developing your language. It's also, because it's training up the ear as well, it can also develop your vocabulary. It can also develop your rhythm and your timing, and it's great for focusing on attention and listening as well. And it's fun. Who doesn't love to have fun? Okay, so here we go together. Superworm is super long. Superworm is super strong. Lots of alliteration there. So you'll know this by the end of the book. You'll be able to say this with me. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm, hip hip hooray for Superworm. Oh, I'll show you that picture first, because we're going right into the story. Okay, you ready? Help, disaster, baby toad has hopped onto a major road. Quick, whatever can we do? Look, a superworm lasso. Very good. The bees are feeling bored today. They need a nice new game to play. Cheer up, bees. No need to mope. It's Superworm, the skipping rope. My goodness, multi-talented. Beetle's fallen in the well. Is she drowning? Who can tell? Not to panic. All is fine. It's Superworm, the fishing line. Then toads and beetles, bees and bugs, brother snails and sister slugs, Uncle Ant and Earwig Ant, clap and cheer and chant this chant. Are you ready? Superworm is super long. Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm. Hip, hip, hooray for Superworm. You'll know by the end of the book, I tell you. Right, what's happening next? The chant is carried on the air to wizard lizard in his lair. He mutters in his servant's ear, find that worm and bring him here. The servant's crow is black and grim. Everyone is scared of him. They all let out a fearful shriek to see their hero in his beak. Uh-oh. The wizard waves his magic flower. Now, Superworm, you're in my power, and you must tunnel, writhe and coil to find me treasure in the soil. Superworm is very cross to have a lizard as his boss. But when he tries to slink away, the wizard's magic makes him stay. Okay, I have to really go back far so you can see all of that. For days he tunnels, twists and winds, but all the treasure that he finds is 2 small buttons, half a cork, a toffee and a plastic fork. The lizard flicks an angry tail. Have one last try, and if you fail to find that treasure down below, I'll feed you to my hungry crow. Oh no, what's going to happen? The crow is flapping through the night. Everyone looks up in fright. They see him perch upon an oak and listen to his dreadful croak. Superworm is good to eat. Superworm's a special treat. He'll be juicy, fat and firm. Hip, hip, hooray for Superworm. Action quickly at the double. Superworm's in frightful trouble. We must help him if we can. We must hatch a cunning plan. Oh, thank goodness for all his pals. The garden creatures leave their home carrying a honeycomb. They fly and jump and crawl and creep and find the lizard fast asleep. They chew the petals off his flower to rob him of his magic power. The caterpillars fetch some leaves while busily the spider weaves. What are they up to today? What do you think they're going to do? The web is strong, the web is tough. The web is plenty big enough. The wizard wakes. This isn't funny. I'm wrapped in leaves and stuck with honey. Then up the bees and beetles fly and lift the web into the sky. Oh my goodness, that would be a big sticky mess. This is the place, and bang, crash, thump. The wizard's in the rubbish dump. And now from somewhere underground there comes a distant rumbling sound. The earth begins to heave and shake. Oh, to heave, and then Superworm is back again. Hooray! Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Would you like to be in that sticky mess of spider webs and honey? Not me. Okay, Superworm, the swing, the slide, the hula hoop, the fairground ride. My goodness, this worm is very generous with his time. Superworm, the belt, the hat, the crane, the train, the acrobat. Do you have a favourite Superworm? Then toads and beetles, bees and bugs, brother snails and sister slugs, uncle ant and earwig ant, clap and cheer and chant this chant. Do you know by now? Superworm is super long, Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm. Hip, hip, hooray for Superworm. Oh my goodness, I absolutely adore that book. And they also say that when you're working in rhythm, then it actually helps calm the nervous system as well. So isn't that interesting? So that is from the creators of The Gruffalo. So you might have recognized the sketches by Julia Donaldson and Alex Scheffler. There you go, Superworm. I absolutely adore that. And that brings us to the end of this week's book club. We will pick up Break the Mould sometime next week on chapter 6. So I'm wishing you all a fantastic weekend. If you finish school, I hope you have a fantastic summer. Maybe I'll see you at summer camps, or maybe I will see you out and about. If you still have a couple of days left to go to school, then have lots of fun. The teachers are doing great jobs, I hear, of really making our last couple of days super, super fun. fun. So I hope you have a fun weekend and I shall see you soon. Okay, have a great day. Bye.